Did you just search YouTube for the best places to retire in Tennessee? There's a good chance that almost everything in those results has been about Chattanooga, and Chattanooga is genuinely great. But here's the thing. Most people who I talk to who are seriously considering this region don't actually want to live in Chattanooga. They want to live near it. And that gap between in it and near it is basically the whole story of why Southeast Tennessee keeps showing up on people's radar in a way that is hard to explain until you see the geography. There's a couple that I worked with not too long ago. They were moving to Tennessee to retire, just like you may be considering right now. And they had one very specific thing on their list that included two of their adult children. One of their kids was living in Riceville and another living in Ottawa, Tennessee. And what they wanted more than anything else was to be close to both of them, not one more than the other. And I could swear I could hear my mom right now saying, "You're both my favorites." So we started looking and we found the perfect home in Cleveland, Tennessee, a home that put them 15 minutes from each of their kids. That's not luck. That's geography. And geography isn't even the most compelling part of what I want to share with you today. There's a personal story that I want to tell you, one that gets at something most retirement research completely misses. I'm going to save that for a little bit later, but it's the reason that I think that this region deserves a serious look in a way that no highlight reel can explain. So is one of the best places to retire in Tennessee actually our southeast corner of the state? I'm going to give you the honest answer. So grab my relocation guide that's linked right down below if you want to dive deeper after the video. I'm Chris Roberts, your Southeast Tennessee relocation realtor, and I help people from all over the country make this exact decision every week. So if you're researching a retirement move to this part of Tennessee, or you've been watching videos about Chattanooga and something kind of keeps pulling you toward the smaller towns just outside, stick around because that instinct of yours, it's worth following. Today, we're going to walk through what actually makes this region worth considering for retirement. Not just the weather and the low taxes, which you've probably already read about, but the specific things that show up in real conversations with people who've made this move. I'll tell you what the geography actually gives you that a bigger city can't, and I'll give you a framework for figuring out whether this place fits your specific version for retirement, because not every town in this region is going to be the right fit for every person. And this is going to be the first video in a series that I'm building specifically around retiring in Tennessee, covering healthcare, the best towns, what it actually costs, and what nobody tells you until after you've actually moved. So if any of that is on your list, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of those. Now, let me show you what I mean about geography. Southeast Tennessee encompasses Chattanooga to the south and just beyond Athens to the north, with I-75 running straight through the middle. And along that corridor, you've got a whole collection of towns like Cleveland, Athens, Sweetwater, Etowah, Benton, Charleston, each with their own personality. That layout creates something that you genuinely can't replicate in a big metro area. You can be 25 minutes from a regional hospital, 25 minutes from a major grocery store, 40 minutes from a mid-sized city with restaurants and culture and live music, and still be sitting on acres of land without neighbors in your sight line and a front porch that's actually going to get used. That combination of proximity without density is exactly what people mean when they say they want a slower pace. All right, back to that couple. The reason that we could find them a home that put them 15 minutes from one kid and 15 from the other in opposite directions is exactly this. The towns are spread out enough that there's space between them, but close enough that the math can still work. A major metro, it just can't give you that. You'd be choosing one side of the town or the other and a lot of traffic in between. Now, with that in mind, I want to give you a real picture of what life looks like here. I live in a small town next to Charleston, Tennessee. Charleston sits on the Hiwassee River, about equidistant between Cleveland and Athens. There are maybe 1,000 people here. A couple little great farm stands, a dog park that my dogs are very enthusiastic about. And when there's a festival in the park, like the Cow Pea Festival, the whole town shows up. A Tuesday morning in Charleston is calm, not in a boring way, in a "this is really what I was looking for" kind of way. I say Tuesday morning specifically on purpose because a fall weekend with the leaves turning and a festival going on, that's easy to fall in love with. And I'll come back to why Tuesday is the real test. Now, zoom out and you've got a region with real variety. Cleveland is the hub, about 50,000 people, growing fast. You got Lee University, major employers like Whirlpool, Mars, and Duracell, new amenities coming in a downtown that just doesn't stop getting better. And you've got easy access to I-75. About 25 minutes to the north, you land in Athens with about 15,000 people, a walkable downtown, Star Regional Medical Center right in town, Tennessee Wesleyan University. If you want just enough structure without crossing into feeling like a city, Athens is really worth a hard look. And I'll link a full video on Athens right in the description below, along with my relocation guide, which you should definitely pick up. Now, Etowah is tiny, about 4,000 people, but it has character that towns 3 times its size can't buy. The historic downtown, the L&N Depot that's on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a gateway to the Cherokee National Forest. And Sweetwater has beautiful murals painted all over, boutique shops, and the Lost Sea Adventure, which is America's largest underground lake. It's a really cool city that I cannot recommend enough. And if you want land, water, and the ability to kayak before breakfast, Benton sits right at that edge of the Cherokee National Forest and the Ocoee River. The 1996 Olympic whitewater venue was right close by. It's one of those places where the people who move here almost never leave. Each of those towns is a different version of retirement, and one of the upcoming videos in this series is going to walk you through each of them, specifically with a retirement lens. We're going to talk about healthcare proximity, lot sizes, community integration, all of it. And so I'll link that video once it's up. All right, here's that personal story that I promised you earlier. My parents-in-law chose Southeast Tennessee as their retirement destination, deliberately. This wasn't a situation where they ended up here by accident or followed someone else. They looked at their options and they chose here. And that decision ended up mattering more than they might have known at the time. Because after they'd been settled here for a while, Megan's grandmother was able to come and spend her final years close to family. She'd been living alone in Myrtle Beach. And now Myrtle Beach, by the way, that's one of the most popular retirement destinations in the whole country. Great weather, beaches, a lot of infrastructure built specifically for retirees. She left it and she came here. Not because Southeast Tennessee had better beaches, because we totally don't, but because her family was here, and that meant that she wouldn't be alone. Now, I'm not telling you that story to make you feel sad. I'm telling you because I think that it answers a question that a lot of retirement research doesn't ask directly. Most retirement content is about the destination, the amenities, the cost of living, the weather, and all of that matters, and we'll certainly talk about all of it. But the people that I see that make the best retirement moves, the ones who seem genuinely at peace with where they landed, they're usually solving for something more than just a list of features. They're solving for what their life is actually going to feel like on that Tuesday afternoon when there's nothing on the calendar. They're solving for who's going to be nearby if something goes wrong. They're solving for whether that place that they're moving can become home, not just a place to visit. Southeast Tennessee won't be the right answer for everyone, and I'll tell you that straight. If you need a major medical center right in your backyard, or if you want walkable urban density, or you need 24-hour everything, outside of the city center of Chattanooga may not be your place. But if what you're really looking for is space, proximity to people who matter, a community that still functions like a community, and enough infrastructure that you're not stranded, then this part of Tennessee keeps delivering that, and in a way that is genuinely getting challenging to find. Now, let's talk about what's not here, because if I don't tell you, someone else will, and I'd rather that you hear it from me first. Specialist healthcare requires some planning. Now, I've got a video coming specifically on healthcare in Southeast Tennessee. It's one of the most important in the series, and I'll also link an existing breakdown in the description. That's where to go for the full picture. The short version: solid coverage exists, and knowing where those gaps are before you move, that matters. Now, for your pets, there's no 24-hour emergency veterinarian in these smaller towns. For that, you're going to drive to Chattanooga. Now, if you have pets, and if you're watching this channel, I bet there's a great chance that you do. That's just part of the small town trade. Both VCA River and the Animal Emergency and Specialty Center serve this whole region. And yes, VCA River is where my wife Megan works, so I can tell you firsthand that they take great care of your animals. Internet and cell service vary by address. It's certainly not a rural wasteland. Providers like AT&T, Spectrum are actively building out the rural infrastructure, but always check a specific address before you commit to a property. I've seen people get surprised by this. And the pace is real. If you need a Target run every day or DoorDash at 10 p.m., some of these towns are going to drive you nuts. And that's not a knock on them. It's just an honest description of what slower actually means. The idea of slow and the reality of slow are two very different things. Most people land on the other side of it and they are glad that they made the move. So here's how I would suggest thinking about this if you're still in research mode. Start with the question of what you're actually trying to solve for. Are you trying to get close to family? There's a geography answer for that. Are you maybe trying to get off of a fast treadmill and find something a little quieter? Because there's a specific town built for that too. And maybe you're thinking about land, space to build something, room for family to visit, or eventually settle near you, like a family compound. That's a whole different set of decisions that I'll walk through in another video of the series. The mistake that I see people make is falling in love with a place on a fall weekend when the leaves are turning beautiful colors, the weather is perfect, and the towns are hosting all these festivals, and then moving and discovering what that cold week in January feels like, because it definitely happens every year. Now, remember when I said that Tuesday morning was the real test? That's what I mean. The fall weekend is real, the January chill is real. The question is whether both versions of this place fit your life. The best thing you can do, and I say this as someone who helps people through this decision every week, is visit. Not just for a weekend, but for long enough to feel what a regular day is like. Drive the roads that you'd actually drive. Go to the grocery store you'd actually use. Find out if internet works at the addresses that you're considering and talk to the people who live here. Many are more than happy to strike up a conversation about the place that they call home. Now, that couple that I told you about at the start, the ones who are 15 minutes from each of their kids, they did exactly that. They visited, they drove the roads, and then they made the call. That's the move that I would recommend for you too. Now, I've got a free relocation guide. It's going to be linked right down below in the description. It's going to cover healthcare, schools, towns, food, the practical stuff. Go ahead, download it, and take a look. And if you're at the point where you want to actually talk through your situation, where you're coming from, what you're looking for, whether this region even makes sense for your specific retirement plans, my number is going to be right here on the screen in front of you. So go ahead and call or text me anytime or fill out that form in the description to schedule a Zoom call. I do this every week and I genuinely love the conversations. And finally, make sure that you're subscribed if you want to follow this series. The next video is on healthcare in Southeast Tennessee. And if that's anything that's on your list of concerns, it'll be worth watching to help you live your best life in Southeast Tennessee.